And we are here at the Next Level Show. Welcome back to another health and fitness podcast that we cover also a life outside of just health and fitness and exercise and macros and reps, sets, drop sets, supersets, you name it. We like to cover other things. And in this episode, we are going to talk about the 11 signs that you are mentally exhausted. Mike, do you feel personally attacked?
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. This when you sent this over, because this is coming from a WebMD article type thing, and I did feel personally attacked, and I know probably a lot of people who feel that way, personally attacked by just asking if you're mentally exhausted, because they're like, "Why the fuck would you call me out like that?" Probably most of them are parents
With
with 2
1-year-olds.
dogs. Yeah.
So I actually got this article sent to me, and I thought it'd be a good topic to talk about. One of my clients sent this to me, so I don't know if they were like insinuating something, right? I feel personally attacked as
Right?
well.
No,
No,
like you
but
like sending something like this to somebody is like a declaration, right? Like you don't just
of
casually
war.
send like, "Oh, maybe you're mentally exhausted." Like, what the fuck are you trying to
It's
say to me right now?
it's
Like,
almost like the saying goes, like when you ask someone like randomly, "Hey, are you a little tired today?" It's like basically saying you look like shit. In other
yeah,
words.
exactly.
And you're probably like, "No, I don't. I just,
I
or
get
the
that a
girl
lot
might
from.
be."
Sorry, I was gonna say I get that a lot from Jen, where I'll just be sitting there with like my normal face, and she'll be like, "What's wrong? You look angry," and I'm like, this is my face. This is just what I
Yeah,
look like. Like you
it's the
signed up
beard.
for this.
Yeah, right.
Nothing is wrong.
No, no. It's funny because like it'll be like you say that to a girl, and it's like, no, I just didn't wear makeup today. I'm like, oh, okay, gotcha. Right. I know this has happened to someone at least listening to this. But yeah, no, I mean, I think this would be a good episode. Yeah, in some ways, I think him and I both. I mean, he's going through some just some changes right now in his personal life with work. He's been really grinding his ass off. So, I mean, it gets to a point that this is a kind of appropriate. And I think everyone in their adult life has experienced this, right, to some degree and might be going through this. So I think it'd be actually a good topic and it has some fitness stuff in it, but we'll kind of maybe go in a little bit more depth ourselves, like stuff that we see with our day to day that can help. And I think it'd be a great topic. So thank you to my client for sending me this. I genuinely appreciate when anyone sends me anything that we'd like to discuss, and if it's interesting, we'll talk about it here. And a shout out to Dr. Rodriguez and aka Emilio. So he's a big supporter of the show, big supporter, like a big great client. He's actually on vacation right now, so he'll probably listen to this in on the island wherever he's at right now on the sunny beaches. So no further ado, we'll kind of jump into it. Unless we have anything. Oh, I know. So before we put this on record, actually, I want to mention Mike and I were talking about Lil Wayne. And for anyone listening here that doesn't know who Lil Wayne is, he's right now he's mainly a producer, but he's known for his rap music, his hip hop music back like in early to like mid 2000s. I think is when he started becoming popular, to like
Yep.
2010 to 2015. He was still like, I think, dropping music like here and there. He started dropping off around 2012, I want to say. Like, I don't know the exact
Yeah,
dates,
somewhere
but
around there.
that's ballpark. So he had his moment. He blew up out of nowhere. I think the first song I ever heard of Lil Wayne was Fireman, that
Fireman.
album.
Yeah. Yep.
And
That was
the
is that
Carter or Carter something,
Carter or Carter 2? I think it's Carter
something like
2.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
don't quote me on this, but definitely he was huge back then. A lot of people hated him. You either loved him or you hated him. That's kind of like how rap is, and well, rap and hip hop is today. I think that we're getting older to the point that now we criticize a lot of like modern music when it comes more so when it comes to this genre, man. Like I consider myself a very open-minded individual when it comes to music, but with a lot of these new hip hop rappers and stuff, the young ones, I really
Yeah.
can't like get behind and give them a good argument. Like typically for even for Lil Wayne, like even though like I wasn't like a diehard Lil Wayne fan, like I wasn't like all about his music. I enjoyed it, and he had some good tracks that he what me and Mike were classifying like was he ever good or is he actually a good rapper? And my thing is that I don't think he's the best rapper ever by any stretch of the imagination, but he was fun. He was a lot of fun to listen to, and he had some good features. He had some good, good songs that were just very catchy, like catchy sayings that were even sounded stupid and funny at the same time. That just were fun to just be ignorant about and just toss around, right? So it was a good time. I remember, especially playing soccer, warming up. You would listen to some Lil Wayne, some of the players would play him, and it would be warming up in our games and so on and so forth. So I don't know what your like history was with Lil Wayne. We're just gonna go down memory lane briefly before we jump into it.
Yeah, I mean, there was a brief period there in my life where I was listening to a lot of rap, basically because I was just tired of listening to like the same like rock music, metal, that kind of stuff, and just needed to switch. And Lil Wayne was one of my favorites. And I mean, I had back before, in the times before when we had physical copies of everything, when I had CDs and a CD player in my
What?
car. Wow, yeah. Um, which people that are older than us are fucking you young fuckers, like going back to
Yeah.
cassettes and shit. But yeah, I had like all of his tapes. We would do like mixtapes too that you get off of the, like shady ass websites, like
That
downloading
would
them onto your computer.
that would damage your computer.
Yeah, I think
Process.
one of them was called like Dat Piff or something like that, something stupid. But
I use
I
LimeWire a
used to,
lot.
yeah, LimeWire, FrostWire, all those things. But I used to fucking love Lil Wayne, and I don't know. I just like I every once in a while I like circle back to music that I used to listen to, and he recently came up in memory, and I was like, I'm gonna go back and like listen to Carter 2, Carter 3, and like I'm Not a Human Being. That's one of his mixtapes, and I don't know. It just wasn't the same. I don't know if it was like I'm in a different mental space and I'm just looking at things differently, or maybe it was just the time that it was back then in my life, and that was like the appropriate music for that time or whatever. But I don't know, it just didn't ring the same bell where I was like, I really thought this guy
Mm.
was like amazing and like he's good. It's good rap for what it is, but it's not as good as I remember it to be, I guess. I guess I'm
That's what I was gonna ask you. Like, did you feel going down there where you feel the nostalgia of listening to some older tracks or other music that you're like, wow, like I still love this song or as much as I do,
yeah.
like, or was it kind of more like,
There's still songs that are like, I love this song. Like that's
yeah.
that's for sure. But others, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just, growing up and moving on and different I have a completely different lifestyle from, 10, 15 years ago. So um some of it just kind of seemed, I don't know, silly. And then there was definitely a
Yeah.
time period where his music kind of fell off. I think he was doing a lot more drugs or something, or maybe he was just losing motivation or just stopped giving a fuck. But it
Well,
started getting like really,
I know what I respect about him as a business or entrepreneur is that he had his moment in music, killed it because we know that realistically no artist really lasts forever as far as their relevancy. They have their
unless you're
moments
Linkin
where
Park.
yeah, unless you're Linkin Park, right? But even then, I mean, come on now. Um, your old stuff is always going to be your best stuff. Like if you
Yeah.
have some bangers that just can stand the test of time, then you win. You're basically immortal at this point, right? And but what he did really well is he started a label and he started kind of just signing on rappers and stuff
Yeah.
and other young talent and getting bringing them up. So on that end, I mean that's very smart on his. It's like Jay Z, no different than Jay Z. And Jay Z is also a genius. He's probably one of the best in that. And even though I'm not very invested in these guys, I do respect the intelligence behind. Well, not the intelligence, the business awareness, I guess, or the entrepreneurial brain, truly, because instead of withering away necessarily and going broke after a couple of years and becoming literally a nobody, where you just perform at like very small spots because you just can't get any more like songs out. You basically become normal again. But these people have established themselves, use their money to the max potential, and set themselves up for life. No different than an athlete doing the same thing, and knowing that they're not going to be that player forever. They're going to age, and they have to take some steps forward. So, very cool. Yeah, I mean, I think he was one of the last rappers, well, in that generation before we got to this place where we are now, where we sound kind of old, saying that mumble rap just sucks, man. Like, I don't have like I can't.
Yeah.
Even though you could argue that Lil Wayne sucked or whatever, I could at least say you could articulate what he was saying and understand what the words were, even though some were made up. Versus
In most of the
now,
songs.
it just seems like we're just doing sounds and noises in that coin that you do it so unique that that's your coined sound. That's like the sound you do all through your whole song, and it just literally mumbling that I don't even know how you understand it. But without going too far off on a tangent, um, that was just a little flash from the past. But we have now a good. Should we transition over to topic at
Yeah,
hand, Senor?
let's do it.
Cool. All right. So, going to the art, you have the article handy. If not, I can pull it up on my phone too.
Yeah, I can. Hold on just a second. Let me mark the
I'll have
time
it
down
here.
for
Just
the.
I'll yeah, I'll have it here on hand. It's so basically the article will link the link for any of the listeners that want to check it out and read it for themselves. It's a pretty quick read. It's basically called "The Signs You're Mentally Exhausted," but we kind of counted them, and it's 11 signs that they discuss, and then they talk about a couple tips and stuff that you can do. And this is where we'll kind of give you some golden nuggets of information that you can apply depending on where you're at. So, basically, just to kind of break it down, what is mental exhaustion? I guess we can sum this up basically. It's like when it's instead of being physically tired, where you just don't want you can't move anymore. You're like maybe you had a really hard workout or even really pushing your body to its max and you're just exhausted, right? Same thing is true, but just mentally, right? And I think this kind of happens with it's very common now with how a lot of jobs are set up or with a lot of things that we do that require our mental focus, and to the point that I think signs that you are, you can't think, process things the same speed. You feel like you're kind of almost dumb at this point because like stuff that typically are easy for you don't are no longer easy for you, or you just literally there's a lot of things that follow up, but that's just kind of the gist, just a very general definition is just the opposite of physical exhaustion. It's your mind that's like basically worn out at this point.
I would classify mental exhaustion as three words. I can't even. That's
And
basically, I mean, that's my experience with it is I can't even like those truly exhausting days or like series of days because sometimes Jen will work three in a row. I work 3 days. I've got Oliver right after work. Jen doesn't get home until late. Start the party again the next day and just get right back on the carousel. By the end of that third day, I'm like, I can't even do any of this shit. Like I'm ordering something for
basically,
dinner. It's exhausting. Yeah, I mean that's how I would sum it up.
I would even say it's like from a scale to 1 to even, I can't.
Yeah, you just
So
can't. Exactly. Um
yeah, no, and kind of what's the first thing that, we see here that can show signs, right, that you are probably a bit mentally tired. And um first one that comes to mind here that we pop up on the article is that you're angry or impatient. This is a very typically in a bad mood. When you're like this goes when you're like you're hungry or you're just overly tired after like the end of the day, and you have a lot of things to do. Maybe you start to notice your mood's a bit off. Well, this can happen, and sucks when it happens is in the middle of the day or when you're starting your day, that you had a really bad night's sleep. Maybe you've been working extra hours, you've been studying for a test all night. um you're just more likely just to kind of fall into that impatient state, or things that normally wouldn't piss you off pisses you off.
yeah,
And
just
I've been guilty of this many times. Like definitely, my mood is a very big indicator that I need a nap, dude. Like, I need to take a quick power nap. I mean, I took a power nap before hopping on this podcast. That's the only reason why I have the energy that I do now, and kind of a little bit of, cleared up my mind. I was before hopping on here, I was like, yep, I need to kind of just at least close my eyes and just
Yep.
calm down and just relax for 10 minutes, 15 minutes of just quiet. And it helps a lot. So that's the first point. Anything else you want to add to that one, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say being a grouch. Everybody knows a grouch. Maybe it's an old man. Maybe it's your neighbor. Maybe it's you. If you don't know the grouch,
Hmm.
it's probably you. Um, cut them some slack. Some people are just assholes. There's nothing you can do about it. Some people, you never know what's on their plate. Maybe they just need a
You,
nap.
you know who's very clear at showing this?
Who? Lil
Babies.
Wayne. Oh, I thought we were going back to Lil Wayne. Yeah,
No,
yeah.
babies are
Except
very clear
babies,
when,
babies will be grouchy and need a nap, and because they're grouchy, will refuse the nap. So it's like the thing
mm,
that will help them is the thing that they don't want to do, and then what do you do? That's like if you could solve that problem and write it down in a book, you'd sell millions of dollars worth of books.
I got to give a shout out to one of my boys, James. Um, this man is a savage, like in the sense that I don't think most people would do this. Is just let them cry until they knock out.
Oh, yeah,
He knows it's nap time. He just puts them in there. One time I was at his house and he just like, nap time, boom, crying, daddy. He's like ignoring them.
yeah.
He's like go to
You,
go to sleep, and it's like just the crying like ooh, ooh, and eventually quiet for like an hour. Just
yeah.
they're just tired. I
It
mean, that's sort of, I just laughed when I was over his
that's
house one time.
honestly the side of parenting you don't see until you're a parent, and you think
Yeah.
that you're being a bad parent, but really, like, it's the best thing for them and it's the best thing for you because you've already been down the path of, without turning this into a parenting episode, but you've been down the path of going in there and trying to coddle him and get him to go back to sleep. Doesn't fucking work. Leave him in there. Let him sort it out. He's got to learn how to sleep on his own anyways. Like, we do the same thing. um it's tough, but it's the right move.
So transitioning to point numero
Yeah.
dos. You can't get work done. That's a very big one that a lot of people in their day-to-day tasks that they're doing, they're handling business, they're getting stuff done, they're knocking things out, boom, boom, they're fresh. But then it gets to a point where you start slowing down, productivity level starts to drop. Um, your motivation is just, it seems like something is just absorbing your motivation, like to do things. And now like the most you it's hard for you to concentrate on said tasks. So that can be a sign that you're getting to that point where you're mentally starting to lose that sharpness, that clarity, that overall freshness, right? So um understand these signs. This, and we'll kind of all tie this back to full circle. Anything you want to add there, Mike, and before I move more to number three? So we're just kind of overall we're listing a lot of the main things
Yeah, I
here.
mean, yeah, and you may notice that some of these stack if you have, or if you're grouchy and then you're not being productive at work. You may be setting yourself up for more of these things on this list. So it's almost like a snowball effect. But go ahead and
Yeah.
move on to the next one.
Yeah. So point number three, and before I say that, a lot of these are gonna be very like common sense things that when we listen to it, it's not like rebel. I'm probably not gonna shock anyone with like the majority of these because they're pretty straightforward. But what we will do is that we will emphasize the things that you need to have in place to navigate and counter a lot of this stuff because it will happen to you eventually, especially if you're not having these things in place. The third one is you zone out. You mentally are just not there. Um, you get that drowsiness, which this is the one that I get the most. This is when I was reading this is the one that I noticed the most in myself is like towards that evening time with sessions, right? That I'm not as sharp as I was in the morning. I'm very clear and very sharp in the morning sessions, even if they're early. If I got a good night's sleep, I am crushing it through like anywhere from 6 in the morning to like all the way to almost noon straight, I'm very, very sharp. But typically I start to die down in the afternoon. Like I feel like it's a little bit harder for me to push through, which my most of the time I don't stack my evenings as much. I try not to, but yeah. So basically, you're drowsy. Your mind is always wandering. You can't really concentrate on things, and you're not as quick. I mean, and ironically enough, the point I'll make here is that mental fatigue, they say, is linked to car wrecks. Now, I think this can be very true, but I also think that texting is a big problem. So don't text and drive. Don't do that. Try to avoid it as much as you can. That can be a big one. Mike?
Yeah, I was gonna kind of harp on the automobile part of it because I know that we've all been there where we're driving home from work or driving home from anywhere, and you kind of just go in autopilot sometimes, and it's your brain just kind of shutting off, and you kind of snap out of it, and then you're however far away from the last time that you were really paying attention, and there's literally everybody on the road doing this, and that has a lot to do with being overstressed and mentally exhausted, and it's definitely a big contributor, especially when you throw texting and having kids in the back seat and all these other things, throwing on your own little rock concert on the way home, whatever it is, got all these distractions on top of that. And yeah, you're going to cause some accidents for sure.
Yeah, so it's happened to me, man, where I'm driving and I literally like I'm kind of conscious again, and I'm like
Yeah.
basically almost home. I don't
Yeah. And you're
remember the
like, how did
drive.
this happen? Yeah.
So very scary. And the crazy part is I drive manual, so it's like I'm kind of just going
Dude,
through it, boom, boom, boom.
I haven't
But I
had that
get
happen to me in so long until recently. And I'm getting to the point with my car where I don't have to think about it anymore. I just drive.
mhm.
And I had that happen to me on the way home this week. Thankfully, Oliver wasn't in the car. I try to stay, aware of that as a situation. But I was like, dang, like kudos to me for being able to drive manual like that. But also like, fuck, I need to like snap the fuck out of it. And
I think
yeah,
overall, because I think it happens more so to me. I think not when it's busy, but when it's like I'm just cruising. It's like catching maybe a couple lights. I'm just kind of thinking. I think I'm still very aware of what's happening because I think if something like comes at me that's like out of like the nowhere, I'm like, oh shit, like I get startled. But yeah, no, it's pretty interesting. So definitely like don't recommend driving when you're really tired as well, especially if you have a long straightaway, because that's when I know if I'm really tired, man, I'd rather just not take the drive or not make a double drive if I don't have to. Like I'll stay where I'm at if I'm like 2-3 hours away. Sometimes it's just not worth it because if you're
yeah,
really tired, a lot of people fall asleep driving, and that's very dangerous. So, anyways, the next point we'll go to point number 4. Signs that you are mentally exhausted. I think we're kind of leading into more of the more serious stuff here. Is you even though you're mentally tired, you don't actually sleep that well. So if your sleep is starting to suffer, this can be a sign that your brain is like basically just at this point of exhaustion that it's starting to affect that. And obviously, sleeping well is a way to get mentally fresh again. So, basically, a lot of it has been linked with cases of insomnia. They report this with people that have that. They just they can't rest, what's making it even worse. So
yeah,
it can get more serious if not taken into consideration, which I actually want to contact Dr. Amy Bender again and see if we can do another episode. But if you haven't, I'm going to see if I can reshare this one on YouTube for our YouTube listeners. But we actually did do a sleep episode with Dr. Amy Bender, and we discussed sleep. So there's some hacks and tricks that can help improve your quality of sleep that I think is super
yeah.
crucial here.
And that's actually
Um,
that's something that we employed for sleep with Oliver. So that applies to everybody. But this was the one that stood out to me the most. First of all, because it is kind of reciprocal in that if you're sleeping poorly and you're stressed, the less you sleep, the more stressed you are. And
mhm,
cortisol is a stimulant. There's no way around that. So if you
yeah.
are at a very high stress situation or just lifestyle in general, your body's in overdrive. You're constantly in sixth gear, and you have to like sort of figure out a way to wind down and be able to get that sleep. And it's it's kind of funny because I've been in this situation before where mentally I am completely exhausted, but I'm so stressed out that I can't sleep. And it seems so counterintuitive, but anybody that's been there knows exactly what it's like, and it sucks. What I found to work best for me, and this is just on a fast little tangent, was just giving myself some time for me. whether it's just sitting by myself quietly or reading or watching a show or playing a game, taking a nap, whatever it is, just having some me time um, really makes a big difference because that gives me time to kind of like decompress and like, do my own thing. And that really helps me a lot. But
Yeah, man, 100%. So, the next thing that can be a sign, this will be sign number 5, is you do unhealthy things. And this kind of refers to people that start adopting alcohol on a very regular basis. Drug abuse, typically becomes more normal. And I'm not saying like abuse to the extreme side, but just like that you're constantly medicating yourself with some type of, or just trying to chase some type of feeling. As for experts are saying and think that the drug addictions do, or any substance addictions do have a big effect on it changes the way parts of your brain that help you manage certain stressors and impulsive behavior. So that's something that the experts are speculating that this obviously doing this can alter certain parts and behavior. And main thing is just the behavior piece, right? Because you start associating a positive feeling with these things. So obviously your body's going to want to do that more, or your brain's going to associate those things. So you're going to want to chase that. So very careful. Like if you are tired, not to try to compensate with things that may just trick you into thinking that it's helping when in reality you might be
yeah,
just actually doing more harm. So just be
no,
very aware of that.
yeah, it's complete opposite. It's not helping. It's making it worse. When you're, I mean, just for example, I'll take it to the extreme. If you're passed out drunk, you're not sleeping. You're unconscious. That's not the same. It's not quality sleep. It's not helping
Hmm.
anything. If you're having an emotional, stressful, whatever kind of bad day, alcohol is not helping you actually cope with that. It's masking it. It's putting a band-aid over it. It's making you
Yep.
forget about the problem until tomorrow. And that's just kind of putting it off, which is a very irresponsible and poor management type way of doing things. And again, it'll snowball. It's not going to go away. It's just going to get bigger and it's going to become more stressful when you finally do decide to confront it. So definitely a really bad habit. That's a personal uh that's a personal topic for me. So I take offense to that one.
Yeah, yeah, no, and I mean, personally, like I only time I've actually ever like experimented with alcohol, like being depressed, was when I was very, very young,
Yeah,
and
me too.
but it wasn't like it never got to a point where I got so into fitness that it kind of like countered it at a very young age, and even now, dude, like when I'm sad, like my mind doesn't think that, right? A lot of people, and this might be someone listening, you might be like, oh shit, like, be very aware of this because this is actually a real that can spiral, like Mike says, into something else if you're not cautious. Um, Alcohol is there to enjoy. I mean, drink responsibly. Obviously, there's I personally drink. I know Mike doesn't. Gabe rarely does, but I'm the one that probably out of the three does enjoy cocktails still. I'll drink a beer at the beach. Like I'll be still in, engaging in those things, especially when I'm not like chasing a very hardcore aesthetic. I'm sorry, an aesthetic goal. But what I've noticed is that I'm never in a bad mental place when I'm doing these things. And I think that's a
Yeah.
very important thing to highlight, not because I am holier than thou, but it's just I always have a good association with these things versus even the times that I've experimented with other drugs. So I'm not saying like I'm injecting myself or anything, but I've experimented with like mushrooms. I've taken ecstasy before years ago, and but in none of these times were I think this is where the problem with these drugs. I'm not saying that people should be doing drugs. I'm not advocating for it, but what I have experimented because out of curiosity, I uh, I never did it with the sense of chasing happiness or to fill a void. So I think this is a
Yeah.
very important thing here, and I just don't want to go too much on a tangent, but I just wanted to make that emphasis that
Well,
even us on this show, even though we talk about health and fitness and taking care of yourself, we have done things in the past, good and bad, that will be labeled as good or bad, or healthy or unhealthy. But from my personal experience, very fortunate that I haven't struggled with that like Mike has. Mike has a very personal story that he's gone through it, so he knows the other side of it. I don't know
yeah.
if you want to
And I
add
don't want to
anything on.
go I don't want to go super deep into that, but I will leave with uh my catchphrase for alcohol. Alcohol is just or drinking is just borrowing happiness from tomorrow.
Okay,
That's
I
my
love that.
favorite way to look at it. I think I got that
I
from
love it.
Frank Sinatra. Maybe not.
Shout out to Frank Sinatra either way. But
R.I.P.
RIP. So we just RIP everything, even if they're still alive.
Yeah, right.
Like Lil
Katara.
Wayne. But I know
Katara's
guitars are
awake. Yeah,
creeping over
there
me.
she is.
She's probably just getting herself more comfortable in my bed. She's claiming ownership.
Yep,
My bed's gonna have a little bit of hair. Um,
that's
but
fine.
basically, so point number 6 here, moving on, is signs that you're mentally exhausted is you're depressed. You know, you may not have the energy. You're feeling very slow, numb to things. Typically, with like depression is like more so like that hopelessness feeling. Um, you just feel like everything's negative, man. In that mindset, like there's nothing really positive. It's really hard, especially people that are chronically depressed and have been diagnosed with an actual chemical imbalance. But for the most part, it's as a person, if something really bad happens to you in life, you can feel depressed. It's very different than feeling depressed and actually being depressed. If that, and I
Yeah,
want to make that enough. I'm not here like I'm not a mental health expert, but I think that words do still mean things, even though we live in a time that people would argue it's subjective. But like here, words we try to use them for what they mean. And definitely, like, there's a difference. You will feel sad, you will feel depressed, but don't not everyone is depressed. I mean, there are people that struggle with it in a real life, day to day. I know I have family members that do. So I know
yeah,
what it's like to know a depressed individual that battles it daily. And but this can be but being mentally fatigued all the time to the point of exhaustion can contribute to this point as well. So definitely like making sure that you're not falling into this. It shouldn't be lasting more, and it basically on the article says more than 2 weeks. This could be a sign that it's a little bit more serious. So if it's like a couple of days, you're feeling a bit off, just try to get, we're going to give you some tips to get back to it. But if it's exceeding a certain amount of time, start kind of like being aware of this and kind of go seek out maybe some professional help, or just go talk to someone, or start getting some stuff in motion. Um, should we do point number 7?
yeah.
So point number 7 is sign number 7, sorry, is you worry a lot. You have this is a that's your flight or fight mode anxiety, is like basically something that alarms you. You and these are also kind of stacked on with symptoms of depression. This can kind of be like linked together. um it's everything's doom and gloom, man. That's the reality. So
Yep.
everything kind of turns into doom and gloom. um I think just to kind of like, I don't know if you want to just sum that up real quick before we
Well,
move
yeah,
on.
I mean, your body recognizes stress in the same exact way, no matter what it is. If it's impending divorce or a bear at the entrance of your cave, you're getting the same chemical response. So imagine the fear of a bear at the front of your cave while thinking about getting a divorce or going home or doing whatever. That chemical response is a stimulant, and that is causing you the anxiety. It's overcharging your sympathetic system, if I'm remembering my
Yep.
neurology correctly. Um,
Yep. Sympathetic nervous
and
system.
that's just it's way overstimulating you, and eventually those nerves just become fried, and then you're fried, and then you're depressed, and then you can't sleep because you have all this adrenaline and dopamine, and or not dopamine, cortisol, and all these other stimulants running through your veins, and it just sort of compounds with everything else. And it's just like you got to find a way to kind of mitigate that, avoid those situations, or work your way through it in some way, because that can be a very very slippery slope that's very very difficult to get out of.
100%. I mean, I concur in, in the words of you. So, sign number 11. I keep saying point, but same thing. You know what I'm saying. Sign number 8. Exercise feels harder. Um, we know that even though physically maybe you're fresh, your muscles are good, all that, the mental piece does have a lot to do with our output, our motivation to train in that way. I know a lot of people deal with this one, right? So when you're so tired after a long day of stressful work, maybe in the office, you had a lot of meetings, a lot of crap that you're being bombarded with. it's you know how hard it is to go to the gym, step into the gym, and go have a killer workout, right? It just gets much more difficult, especially if you're someone that already just like already kind of struggles with liking the gym and all that. Add this layer, it's just more an excuse for a lot of people just to not do it, period. Which Mike and I and Gabe, Gabe's not here on the show right now, but we've talked about in the past of like, something is going to be always better than nothing in this case, even if it's not like the best workout in your life. um for the most part, we advocate for some form of consistency, even on a smaller degree. I'll be honest, like this past week, when actually it happened to me, I want to say Monday. I had a very busy weekend. Monday came around, I did not get around to my training, and I waited till the last minute, till the end of the day, which was probably the worst decision. And I forgot to eat. I had a very busy start of the week, and it's an excuse overall not to get your stuff done. But basically, I let a lot of things get ahead of me. By the time it was time for me to work out, I could not muster the energy to train, dude. I literally did 2 sets. I said I'm gonna do it anyways. And even then, dude, it just felt like crap. That's point that I just like I took the L that day, and then I said tomorrow I'm gonna come and I'm gonna train in the morning, and I'm gonna go have a good dinner. Wake up once I finish my morning clients. I had a pretty smooth morning. I'm going to train, and I had a kick-ass workout. I've already had two full body kick-ass workouts. I actually did 3 workouts, but one was more conditioning. 2 full body workouts so far this week, and I feel fantastic because I actually knew I had to make some adjustments. This is actually before reading the article, but this is like just like little things that I catch myself. Like I noticed my mood was really bad the beginning of the week. I was just more irritable for the most silly things. Like I broke something the other, and I was just like really annoyed by that. And I know that it's replaceable. It's not the most expensive thing that I own. Like it's really not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. But I noticed that, and I caught myself. I'm like, I gotta prioritize once again getting just a better night's sleep, even though I wasn't sleeping little necessarily. I was just worn out physically. And then I just wasn't able to kind of get my training in order. My eating was off. It's a spiral effect of things. And I think this actually correlates to the next point, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. It's a perfect little segue. You saw that
Wow.
tip.
Look at that.
The ninth sign that you're mentally exhausted is that your eating habits tend to change. It can affect your appetite, obviously, like your mental state of being. That's why people, when they are anxious or depressed or, about things, what do they gravitate towards? They don't gravitate towards chicken and broccoli and brown rice. They're gravitating towards like junk food, sweets, salty foods, crunchy foods, just stuff
Captain
that's
Crunch.
gonna Captain Crunch, you name
Yeah.
it. You're gonna gravitate towards those foods just to feel better because it's your body at the end of the day, when you're going through any type of negative or discomfort, your body just wants to feel good. And some people, medicate with food. And I'm not saying that it's the exact same as a drug addict, but you're chasing some type of you're coping with it.
Yep.
And this is not the best way, but it's you have to pay attention. If you notice yourself literally just not hungry necessarily, but you just want something sweet and it's like all the time, you might want to assess kind of like these other things that are going on in your life that could be direct correlation to that.
Well, and this is one of the things that we talk about without talking about it. When we're talking about saying changing up somebody's diet, if somebody is on this cycle where they're eating crappy foods because they feel bad, and that's the kind of their release at the end of the day is that bowl of ice cream or Captain Crunch or whatever it is, that could be the best part of that person's day. And speaking to people that are trying to lose weight, now, don't go after those. If that's the best part of your day, keep that and try to add like other good things first, and then eventually the best part of your day will eventually be something else. Maybe it's how you're feeling that day because you're starting to lose weight or whatever, and then you can start tackling getting rid of the Captain Crunch, getting rid of the ice cream. But for now, keep it where it is and work on other things because that's your coping mechanism for better or worse. And without that, you're going to start coming unglued. So just kind of to point that out real quick.
Absolutely. And sign number 10 is going to be you just make more mistakes. Obviously, no one is perfect, but if you're in a profession or a job that requires higher levels of precision, such as a pilot,
Oh no.
or like or someone that maybe like handling very like dangerous machinery, your room for error goes down significantly, right? So you
Yep.
definitely don't want to be a person that is, or you're dealing with like very high stake numbers. You're an accountant of a very big firm, or you're dealing with very expensive clients. Like you are handling a lot of money. Who knows what it is? Like you have to be. This can affect if you're not there mentally. This can affect your performance, and you're more likely to not catch things that you normally would catch, or resolve them as fast, or before you know it, it's too late. You kind of let this thing go too far ahead of you. So this can be a very big sign. So be very self-aware of this. Number 11 is you feel more pain. Um, it's just like it's more to do with the fatigue thing. And I have a sneeze. Oh, there we
How
go.
dare
Bless
you?
me.
You
I was
can't
trying to
bless
fight.
yourself. That's not how this works.
I bless myself. I'm that guy. I'll be like, "Achoo, bless me," just like in the middle of nowhere. No one else wanted to do it, so I took it into my own hands, right?
I mean, I'm not a priest. I
But
can't bless you.
so, anywho, basically here we have you know, the type of pain that you may or may not feel comes like with maybe headaches is very common when you're very like overly exhausted. Muscle, it can even reflect your physical, your physical being, like your actual muscles, back pain, in some cases stomach problems. And if you have any type of like autoimmune stuff, it can probably like if it can probably have a cause that to flare up as well. I'm not saying that it's 100% sure, but these can be some things that are correlated. So, I don't know, Mike, if you have anything else to add there. That's kind of our
No,
last actual point. That's our point number 11.
yeah, I would just say, at that point, you're kind of just hypersensitive. And, maybe it's you carry your stress in a certain part of your back or something like that. I mean, that kind of stuff happens to everybody. So, um, yeah, again, it all kind of adds up to being part of the same picture, in my opinion. All of these things kind of intertwine. It's at some point.
So here with kind of that was like those are the main like 11 signs that you could be in this. And obviously, like I said, a lot of these may actually just be very like common sense to all of you, or many of you, I'm sorry. And some actually might have stood out and been like, oh, that's definitely me right now. I'm kind of going through these things, and that's totally fine. It's just, just becoming aware of it. That's the more critical part in actually taking some steps. So the kind of the main thing here, we're kind of give end this episode, or kind of go towards the ending with some things that you can actually do to improve. In this case, taking breaks, it's like a the response, taking some breaks. But the way they set it up here, which I'm not against necessarily, it's saying that
Yeah,
you
I
want to take short.
actually, sorry to cut you off. I actually screenshot that and I was like, I'm gonna try that out at work because that actually seems like a pretty good idea. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, no worries. And then we have taking short breaks or long stretches of mental work. So if you have, an 8 hour, 9 hour day sitting in front of a computer, handling these tasks, scheduling these short little breaks in between, for a few minutes. It says anywhere from an hour, every hour or 2 hours or so. Just take a few minutes just to kind of disconnect from the computer or set task, and just decompress for like a few minutes. Don't mean you have to take a full hour to take, to go. You might get fired for doing that. So
Yeah,
um the
I would even.
Pomodoro technique is what they call it, where you
It's a
set a
pasta
timer for
dish, isn't
20.
it?
I have no idea. If
It sounds
basically
like one.
there's four things, like, you would set a timer for 25 minutes, focus on one task at a time. Number 3 is take a 5-minute break when the timer goes off. Number 4, after the fourth 25-minute block, take a 15 to 30-minute break. Repeat until all tasks are done and your workday is over. Now, I don't necessarily do that myself. I don't think that's necessarily necessary. Depends on the person, depends on your level of your capacity, right? Some people might need more breaks than others. I think that, but yeah, like creating blocks for yourself, regardless of, in this case, it can be simply every other hour. We personally recommend in other episodes in the past to improve your productivity is actually like take 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 5 minutes to do a mobility stretch. If you have the ability or the office space, or you have the ability to do so, right? You just kind of maybe stretch out your do a 90-90 stretch, do a lizard with rotation, do a downward dog, depending on where you're at, of course, right? We're not going to do this on the hospital floors if you're in the nursing field, but or it can be just take if you have the luxury to do so, take a break just for 3 minutes, breathe, close your eyes, relax, and decompress for a couple of minutes. That actually will refresh you back. In some cases, when I used to do in high school, they used to make one of my teachers used to make us do push-ups. Everyone drop on the floor and do some push-ups, like 10 push-ups, boom, boom, boom. Because you notice that we're all falling asleep during a lecture, like or the lesson of the day. We're like all like slouching, all of us have our heads down. We're literally sleeping in class. All right, everyone up and drop to the floor and do some push-ups. And actually, that kind of gave you a little bit of natural boost of energy just to regain their focus. And then you're more attentive to kind of go through it. Because if you're going through hours of a lecture, hours of a particular task, it's very challenging to stay as sharp the whole way through. So these are just ways to kind of cope with that. Mike, I don't know if you have something there.
Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion. I would also add, if you're a computer worker staring at a screen all day, taking a break from staring at a screen to stare at a different screen doesn't quite make sense to me. And I'm sure that saying it out loud doesn't make sense to you either. So if you are going to start taking breaks from a computer desk, don't just browse your phone, don't just scroll Facebook or even doing desktop on either of those. Take an actual break, stare at the wall, look at something that's not 20 inches in front of your face, because visual ocular fatigue is a thing in that area as well, which is something I'm relearning because I'm at a computer desk again. But yeah, just to kind of throw that out there.
Yeah, so basically what I have is the next thing is obviously staying active, and this is kind of correlating with scheduling breaks with some type of activity might be ideal, or just like Mike said, don't stop staring at the computer or something and just go to your phone and start like mindlessly scrolling. Also, another tip that I would suggest for people that are watching this on video on YouTube for whatever reason, I wear glasses, and mine are they have no prescription, so it's not that I need them to see. But if I'm staring at the computer, it helps me just with my phone. If I'm on my phone a lot or watching TV a lot, I like to wear blue blocker glasses. It just kind of combats a little bit that constant blue screen in your face all the time, especially with your phone. Pay attention to when you use your phone all day and your time is going up, how much more fatigue you feel at the end of your day. Some people don't even know it's happening. You're not aware of it, but you are. I can guarantee it because you have this little device in your face constantly all day long, mindlessly scrolling, mindlessly watching YouTube or whatever the case may be. You are going to get a little tired. It's just that maybe you haven't, like I said, become aware of it. But the little blue blocker glasses help my office workers, my people that are on computers all day dealing with their phone, etc. So it'd be a good way to kind of combat some of the stuff because you still got to get shit done, right? We still got to work very hard to get things done. So you can't avoid it, or you may not be able to take all these little breaks, but finding tools to help you stay sharp. But that definitely a very basic one is incorporating exercise in your daily routine. I mean, it can be your daily routine in the sense of at the bare minimum, you walk for a couple minutes every day. You divide it into little sections, which, like we mentioned, like mobility stuff that could be kind of helpful to combat that stiffness that you feel from just being in place all day. You get some blood circulating through the body, you're gonna feel a lot better. Um, and obviously eating nutrition, we're gonna get like give you one more more fitness stuff is you've obviously you're scheduling some type of breaks, and be a little bit selfish here because a lot of people feel so dedicated to the cause, right, that they will start to diminish. They'll start to basically like deteriorate. I'm sorry, throughout the process. We know someone personal that took on a gym and never gave himself a break, and eventually, years later, it's just not worth it, in my
Shots
opinion.
fired.
So yeah, shots fired in a most loving way. So
Yeah.
um yeah, dude. So it's like and it's stuff that I talked to this person on a very personal level. Like, dude, you have to prioritize yourself. You have to take care of yourself because it's your body, dude. Like, it's your body. No one's gonna
You
do it
only
for
get
you,
one.
and yeah, you only get one. We haven't been able to, like, just suck our mind into another and put it into another body yet. So until then, take care of it. And, what I was
That's
gonna say, yeah,
called
so
that's called Altered Carbon, and you can catch it on Netflix.
there you go. A little promo there for Netflix.
It's a good
Um,
show. Season 1 is.
it's a
Season 2 sucked.
yeah, I didn't even bother watching season 2, honestly. Once I saw that it wasn't the same guy, I was like, "Yeah, I don't care about
Yeah.
this."
Well, it goes with the
Um,
story, but
it
I
does,
didn't
yeah.
like it. I didn't like the story.
Unless I did watch it, I just didn't care for it that much, so I just
You
don't
probably
remember
don't
it.
remember it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fine.
I was just mentally exhausted. So so basically, yeah, so just to kind of sum that up real quick, um, take your breaks. Schedule breaks are very important. Getting out of a specific setting or a specific room or a specific chair that you're in there all the time. Getting a little bit of more sunlight definitely helps as well. Some form of meditation, scheduling maybe some massages, getting some gym sessions in the week, and exercising in this case appropriate to what your life is throwing at you. I have a lot of clients that have a lot on their plate, and they come to me almost with guilt, saying like, "I wish I could do more," and I'm like, I'm not expecting you to do more. I'm actually expecting you just to get the bare minimum done. And the way I structured their workouts is to complement their already hectic schedule. That way they can, the exercise is actually contributing versus sapping more energy away from them. It's actually going to give them that boost to feel better. So those are things that you can talk to a trainer, you can talk to us about if you're someone that's going through this, and we can, talk more in depth. I don't want to make it an episode based on that. Obviously, watching your nutrition. If you're eating shit food all the time, you're not helping the situation. You want to prioritize good energy, good quality source of nutrients that's going to fuel you. Also, give you that brain capacity too, because food has a big influence on our brain function. So, if we are pumping it with a good source of like easy digestible carbohydrates, protein, and healthy fats, you're just gonna do better. You're fueling the body to perform. So, especially if you have a high demand in your life, you can't expect on just whim alone and sure willpower. Eventually, you will need to be covering your bases and getting sun. I feel bad for anyone that's living in a very cold climate. They're in the winter. I know it's tough, but if you are taking advantage of the summertime or spring summertime area, get out there and just let the sun touch your face. Be out there. Also interact with people, do stuff that, makes you feel good, makes you happy, that you like genuinely look forward to, that disconnects you from that work mode and that serious mode all the time. That will also contribute to kind of recharging you, right? I know every time I take a small little vacation, even if it's just something very small, nothing crazy, it feels great, man, just to get out of the routine. And then you come back mentally recharged and excited to go back to stuff that you love to do, even though it is tiring, it is tiresome. You're mentally clear, and I know that's very, very critical. So definitely, if you have the luxury to do so, schedule some breaks, schedule like a change in your routine. That will also be some big contributors to recharging you.
Yeah, I couldn't have said any of that better myself. I guess if you're in the winter, if it's winter and it's gray, you're living in the north or whatever, look into some vitamin D supplements. It's not going to be the same as natural sunlight, but it'll help. And also, um, vitamin D requires additional calcium to help along with, because there's an interaction there that I'm not remembering off the top of my head, but I know that the two are equally as important with each other. Um, and then the social aspect, again, if you're snowed in or whatever, or you work at a desk and you don't talk to people very much, try to create some sort of social interaction that may put you a little bit out of your comfort zone, which is healthy in other ways. But even if it's, I don't know, online chat rooms, talking during video games, playing with other people, or I don't, to some degree, like watching like YouTube videos can kind of help with that, where you're kind of not interacting with the person, obviously, because it's recorded, but seeing other faces and listening to voices and stuff like that, that can kind of get you by for a little bit. But that's also not scientifically proven. That's just personal experience, I guess.
Well, I'll even say, hey, with the technology now, FaceTime a loved one.
Yeah.
FaceTime you haven't
Oh, yeah.
talked to, or
That's
just message someone that you haven't talked to, that just say hello. And this goes back to an episode we did about, relationships being very important. In this case, relationships are very important, like especially during the pandemic. I think a lot of people I started utilizing Facebook time more than I ever did in my past. But I was interacting with people, and that kept me mentally sane. Just kind of talking to people, talking to clients, calling friends that I haven't talked to, because we all had technically the time to talk to each other. So made the most of it. So those are just some things that we wanted just to kind of leave you guys with. If you think that we're missing some and maybe that might be helpful, drop a comment if you're watching this on YouTube, or put this in the comments in the review sections of our audio platforms, and shoot us a message directly. Screenshot this episode, share it if you're listening to this. We always appreciate any type of support. Mike, do we have anything else that we need to add or close away with?
Um, Elden Ring is probably one of the best video games I've ever played in my whole entire life.
Yeah.
Just for the record, it's very, very on par with like Sekiro, Dark Souls. Very difficult, very challenging.
Mhm.
The map is fucking huge, dude. There's so much content. It's so much fun to play. Also, my brother came down this week and got to spend a lot of time with Oliver, which is really, really cool. Because at first he was like, "I don't know who the fuck you are," like kind of stay away. And then by the end, like he was crying when he would leave, which is like a good
Mhm.
sign, if because like
Mhm.
he wants to be around. So um, that was really cool. But that's it. I also have a dad joke. Let me pull it up. Admittedly, my dad joke game today is not the most proud. Um, what is going on with my camera? There it is. What do you call a typo on a tombstone?
No idea.
A grave mistake.
Mm.
Eh,
Clever.
yeah, it's not that
Simple
good.
yet effective. Simple but
Yeah,
yet effective. I guess the
I
point across.
suppose. I suppose.
All right, listeners. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. It was something that I think that was very important to talk about, discuss, a little bit different, change of pace, right, than we have been doing. So hopefully you found good value from it. If you did, like I said, let us know, shoot us a message. I'm always down. And if you have any topic suggestions you would like us to discuss, hey, shoot them over. We'll talk about it. And if we feel well equipped enough, or we feel personally attacked, we'll do a whole episode on it. So there you go. You have it. Check us out on social media. We have the links of our platforms, on Instagram mainly, underneath in the description area, and also the show notes if you want to kind of go directly to specific parts of this episode you want to revisit, recap, and so on and so forth. So with that being said, this is the Next Level Show. We will catch you on the next one.